Well, good afternoon. We are in a series of interviews about the multi-tiered support systems that many schools are using that include such programs as PBIS and RTI. And we're going to talk in this interview about the level or tier 3, including how restorative justice can be blended with the level or tier 3 approach and an example of how that's done. But let's start by having you first identify who you are and what school you're at and what role you play.
Okay. My name is Rich Young. I'm a school counselor at Randolph Academy, Union Free School District. And I'm a member of our restorative justice team and committee here within our district. And I've been working with RJ for 2 years now. We're going into our third year since we've been implementing the program here. And it's been working rather well for us. I'm going to talk about Tier 3 or incidents where behavior has risen to the level of what would normally result in an out-of-school suspension, and how using restorative justice and implementing that into our program has helped keep our students in the building, receiving their education, and repairing the harm that was caused due to their acting out behaviors. So the first thing I'll talk about is the incident that, or a incident that we used restorative justice in a Tier 3 situation. We had a ninth grader in algebra class who was slowly falling behind in class, slacking off, getting to the point where they were acting out to where they were distracting others, and the teacher addressed them and asked them to get back on task. The student then put their head down, and the teacher addressed them again and encouraged them to get back on track and follow along. And later on in the period, the student had kind of gotten to that point where they're despondent, head down, and the teacher used a system where they would call on students at random due to, I think it was drawing a name out of a cup on like a popsicle stick type thing to get everybody involved, and this student's name was drawn, and that resulted in the student getting highly escalated. They flipped their desk over, got up, they were being verbally aggressive towards the teacher. I do believe they made some threatening remarks and then left the school completely, walked out front, to which I was called to. I went out there. I was able to de-escalate the student, get him back into our building, into our intensive behavior classroom, where we go through and kind of decompress the situation with these students and have them housed where we have a teacher and two aides to assist and help these students there. And what happened there is our IBC teacher and principal are also on our restorative justice committee here. And after this incident, we all kind of met and came to the conclusion that we definitely need to do an RJ at a Tier 3 level. So we got out our pre-conference checklist that Dr. Kavanaugh supplied us with and started to go through that and set up for the following day. We contacted Mom and invited her in. She was going to be a participant, and we informed her of what took place and kind of got her prepped and informed her of everything that was going to take place. I was going to be there as support for the student as I was their counselor. Our IVC teacher was going to facilitate the conference, and the teacher whose classes took place in was going to be there, and our principal was going to be there for support for her. So we went through our pre-conference checklist. We introduced the facilitator to everybody who was going to be involved, kind of got the details out there, got everybody on the same page, set up a time for the following morning. So when Mom and student arrived, what we used was the restorative conference script that, again, Dr. Kavanaugh so graciously allowed us to have and use, and it's been fantastic. And we went through that, and that helped out immensely. It helped everybody sit down, allowed the student to speak their mind, to let them feel heard instead of targeted. One of the things I've heard from this before from parents and students involved is it's not, okay, now you need to sit down and be attacked by everybody and swallow your pill and this is your consequence. It's they get to feel heard and they get to express themselves, and we understand where they're coming from instead of them just being told this is what you did wrong. And what we came to find out through the use of this script and the restorative questions is that this student was having a very hard time in math class. They're falling behind. They weren't on track. They didn't understand the material. And it culminated in that acting out that we saw. And through the use of our in-school restorative agreement that comes along with this script, we kind of tweaked it a little bit, just kind of changed the name at the top that Dr. Kavanaugh gave us. We went through and we documented who the participants were. Again, we had the facilitator who was the IBC teacher, mom, student, principal, teacher, and myself. We documented what happened. We went through the whole situation again and talked about that. We talked about the effects of what happened, how it impacted everybody, how it made them feel, and what we need to do moving forward. We talked about what part each person is responsible for. And in this instance, what we came up with was that instead of suspending the student out of school, we would have them enrolled in our intensive behavior classroom, again with a teacher and 2 aides, to keep them in our building and getting educated for 3 to 5 days, the same what out of school would have been. We set up that this teacher would work with the student after school. They were willing to offer up their time to get that extra assistance to help get them back on track, and also during their lunchtime when available. And she sent home packets of math work for mom and dad to work with the student as well as online resources, so that we can make sure that this wouldn't happen again. Everybody agreed to it. They signed off. The student went through and to help repair the harm and the restitution, in addition to agreeing to work with everybody to get caught up in math, went through and helped the teacher out by cleaning desks, organizing the room, doing things like that to try and repair the relationship that his behaviors had damaged between the two. And for about 3 to 5 weeks, this worked great. He was participating in class. He was caught up. We weren't seeing the acting out behaviors. But unfortunately, this is a very active student as well. Played football, had a long bus ride, and we started to see that dip again in his behaviors. And we didn't see the same type of acting out behaviors, but we started to see the slip in the grades and everything again, and we're getting to that point where we're starting to have to come up with new ways to entice him and make sure that he's staying on par. So, we went back and kind of thought about our process with this, and as a committee, our RJ team meets every so often, and one of the things we thought about, because if you do not meet the agreement that we met with the student and signed the contract there, what's supposed to take place is the initial punishment of the out-of-school suspension would then be implemented. And, we thought, well, we should have put a time frame on it. We should have said, for 2 weeks, this student will be able to do these things and not have the same incident. Because it got to that, after 5 weeks, it was, well, we don't really want to go through and enforce that because he's been doing so well.
Right.
So we went back and we thought, okay, whenever we do these in Tier 3, we want to make sure we put a time frame on it.
Right.
So moving forward, we made sure that from that point on, not just this student, but every student, we made sure we had a time frame. And something else we were hindsight thinking about as well is Dr. Kavanaugh has a reentry script that you can use with a student. So after this student had come back from being in our IBC classroom into his regular core classes, that it probably would have been a good idea to have this student have this reentry meeting with the other classmates who got to witness this and had to go through that experience. It would be great for them to be able to process this and feel heard and let the student know how they felt during that situation as well. And we think that would have worked out really well, and that also might have been a driving point to keep this kid on track instead of just the initial contract. So, RJ was great. We kept him in school. We kept him in a safe place. We kept him on par with his work. He did not fall behind, and he was able to actually get caught up in math and on par for the longest he'd probably been on par in a really long time. So it worked out great for us. And it's something that in multiple instances I can think of. I mean, so many more off the top of my head, and I know you have others coming in to speak of the other tiers. But I have nothing but great things to say about RJ and then the scripts that you've developed and that we utilize here in our building. And it's been incredible to help keep our students in the building on par with their academics and in a safe place.
Well, thank you very much for sharing not only how RJ can help out at level 3 or tier 3, but a great example. It's really great to hear that. I think your point about the time is very important for not only management's sake, but for the students' sake too. These students have a hard time thinking infinitely.
Yes.
Even a week can be difficult. So I think your idea of setting a time and then coming back and revisit it, and even maybe resetting the goals or that are there, or the purposes, is very, very important. Thank you very much for sharing this with us, and I'll stop the recording now.